Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
Jared Flo.
Thanks for joining us for part 2 of why companies fail. We got a 4% success rate of contracting companies making it to 10 years, and that is an outrageous number. And so we covered last week the first wall that most companies hit. And so in that, it's when you're out there running jobs, you're out in the field with your tools doing work, and you're trying to transition to being a project manager, and why people hit that wall and how to start getting over that wall. We covered last week also there are really 3 things that cause these companies to fail. The 96% of companies that fail because of finances, mismanagement of them in a couple different ways. Loss of reputation, which leads to the finances, right? I lost customers. I don't have clients anymore because they're just not calling. And then the third one is attrition. I just can't do this anymore. I'm done. I've been doing this for 8 years. I haven't made any more money now than I did then. I quit my job that was paying me more than I've ever made. And I'm going to go back to working somewhere else. I'm going to work for someone. I'm going to put my resume out there. I don't know how many guys I've interviewed for project manager roles that are that guy. That is the burnt out guy that says, I just want to work for someone else. Right. Yeah. And so those are the 3 reasons that these companies close down. And so we kind of covered what happens in the transition to get over the wall of I am one type of company in level 1. I'm a totally different company in level 2. I've got a different DNA. I am not just me selling me and who I am in my time, but at level 2, to get over that wall is I am now a project manager with systems in place to deliver the quality product without my eye being on every single job every single day. Yeah. And that's the first wall getting over and how to do that. If you didn't catch the last episode, go back, listen. It's great.
Check it out. Yeah.
This episode, we're talking about the second wall, right? So baseline for that. We're gonna break down the 4 different levels again, or at least the first 3. Level 1 we talked about last week, out in the field.
Got your tool belt on.
Level 2, you're project managing, and to move from level 2 to level 3 is when you start hiring employees, your W-2 employees. Now, when I'm in level 2, my subs, my crews are W-2. I'm sorry, take that back. Our 1099 are not W-2.
Right.
A lot of guys start when they're in level 1. I'm going to bring this guy on. He's an employee, and he's my right-hand man. Yeah. We're running this together. And then they move into level 2. They keep the right-hand man as a W-2, but now he's doing labor. And so you start building your labor out there and hiring on W-2s. Yeah. So we've seen companies that we go into when they've got 14.
Like, how many employees do you have? And they're like, I think I've got about 25. I'm like, what?
What's the revenue you're doing? 1.1.
Yeah.
That doesn't, I don't believe anything you just said, right? Yeah. And so it's understanding the structural setup of different industries, first off. Secondarily, my HVAC company. In that company, we have to have labor as W-2 for the most part. We've got a couple 1099s for some of the investor stuff we're doing, but the employee that I'm owning needs to be in my truck and that sort of thing. So totally different setup depending on the industry. But for general contractors, in general, our advice is always 1099 for labor, W-2 for management.
There are a small few areas that it might make sense to have labor as a W-2. But as a whole, our recommendation is your labor, your people executing the work need to be 1099.
Yep. So level 2 is that. Level 2 is I'm my own boss. I'm the only employee of this company. I've got 3, 4, 5 jobs running at a time with the crews that I'm running on them. And now we've got so much work, and I'm pushing my pipeline down weeks, months at a time. Yeah. I think I can hire my buddy Jared to come be a project manager with me and show him what I'm doing, and he can manage some of this work. Yeah. Right. And so the first hire is usually a buddy, someone that you know, someone that you've met, someone that's a crew lead on your job site.
Because it's safe.
Yeah, I know him. I get along with him really well. We're almost like the same person. I'm trying to hire another one of me, so that's perfect. And the problem is, another you is not what you need. Right. You already have you. Right. The another you, the next hire that you need is the anti-you, the person that's not like you. Because I am not organized, but I'm really good at sales.
Yeah.
I don't need to hire a second person good at sales.
Yeah.
But that's who I'm going to connect with when we're talking at a party, when I'm hanging out with them. What I need to hire is the boring person that is meticulous with numbers, high detail, won't let me overspend, hold me accountable to not being so entrepreneurial.
Right.
I need the brakes to my gas.
Right.
Most guys hire the second gas person.
Well, and the two of you together
Yep.
make a very well-rounded leader
Yep.
of the development and growth of the company.
Yep.
Right. And that's what's necessary. I think one caveat is, when everyone that we talk to, every single person that we coach and talk to and bring in and consult with, has the idea that they want to grow. They have been sitting in the position of project managing and they do it really, really well. And so their reputation's going up. They're getting natural leads by word of mouth. Their requests to do work are increasing and they don't want to miss out on the opportunity. And so they think, I've got to hire.
Yeah.
I have to hire somebody. And they hire out of urgency because they don't want to lose jobs.
Yep.
But they don't hire out of necessity and purpose.
Yeah. And we're talking about this because this is the beginning of the seeds that you start planting that you're going to hit that second wall.
Yeah.
Right. And so the first hire is where people jump once they become the project manager and start getting that success. And the first bad seed that you plant is, I hired my buddy who's good because he can also run jobs like I can, and now I can say yes to more customers.
Right.
And I had the customer, so I said yes, so I hired him, right? And so the transition from I am a project manager, level 2, to I am a general manager, we call ours a head of construction, and I have project managers that I'm managing, that is a totally different job.
Right.
Right. And so again, DNA of the company changes. DNA of your job is 100% different.
Right.
And there's some transition. You're still going to be a PM and also hire your PM. But when you go up as a boss, you have a totally different skill set needed. I need empathy. I need understanding. I am a therapist.
Right.
Everything is my fault no matter what. And understanding that person's inabilities on their job is because I didn't train them well. I need to have better training. I need to do this better. I need to do that better.
You need an organized way of how do I treat employees?
Yep.
What's acceptable? What's not acceptable?
Yep.
What should they be doing? All of that stuff is a major transition in your job role and expectation.
So we talked last week about when I'm in it in this level, I'm a project manager. This is how things are operating. The next move, when that's stabilized, is saying these are the processes for a project manager in my company. And when I get to the next level, let's start looking ahead because we're stabilized here. The next level, how do I want me as a project, or the person sitting as me currently as a project manager, how is the best way to manage me?
Right.
And so I'm going to start building processes for when I'm the boss of my current job position. And so understanding it's not about spelling out what I'm good at right now. That should be the baseline. It's spelling out when I'm a boss, what do I need to be good at? When I hire a PM, what's the new job roles that I need? I think I mentioned this last week. We write new job positions, job roles for the management team almost yearly.
Yeah.
It's been 17 years, and I have on my calendar next week to sit down with my GM because we're redoing some of the management job roles.
Yeah.
It is the self-awareness that, hey, this isn't my job. I keep doing it. So let's time
clarify
out.
the
Should this
lines.
go on my job? And so instead of saying I have more on my plate by now managing this guy, it's saying how do I get more off my plate to him? And that way I have space to do this other stuff, which is the next
the
job
new
role.
things that are expected of me.
Yeah, exactly. So when you don't do that the proper way, when you think you're good to go, you think you got your job descriptions ready, and you go make that hire, and this is what you're going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm doing to check your work, and I'm also going to be doing my own thing, and you kind of spell that out. If it is not properly implemented through training, through paperwork, through written processes and procedures for us to keep them accountable, if you don't have it set up,
through knowing what I'm looking to hire,
through knowing exactly what I want to hire, why I want to hire their job role versus what my new job role is. I'm going to have two job roles until I hire the second and third PM. But this is what I am wearing this hat. This is me as a PM. when I'm wearing this hat as a boss, this is what I'm going to do for the guy.
Yeah.
That is the biggest wall that people hit.
Yes.
So you can't make hires. And when you try to make hires, I'm now running jobs, I'm making a hire, I'm doing that. I'm hitting the wall because those hires don't work.
Right.
They're not taking work off my plate. They're putting more work on me. So instead of working a 60-hour week PMing these jobs, I'm now working an 80-hour week, 60 of them PMing, 20 of it picking up your mess that you're making. And all of a sudden, I've got way more work and I'm not making enough money because all the money coming in is going to your salary.
Yeah.
So I'm doing more work for less money. This doesn't make sense. You're fired. You suck at your job. Get out of here. And that's not the reality. The reality is they're not bad at their job. You didn't spell out what their job is. Right? And so that is plain and simple wall number 2. I cannot make those hires without it working.
And to be very, very clear, hiring is very difficult.
Yes.
It is one of the largest long-term mistakes that we've made of just trying to do it over and over, thinking we were doing something different and continuing to make mistakes. And one of the big things that we realized is most of the time when you're looking to hire, it's because there's opportunity on the table. The iron is hot, is what we like to say. And so we choose to make a decision to capitalize on an opportunity. And so what you end up doing is you try to find someone who has the skills to immediately start making money for the company. Right. And what we've found is that person who has those skills, they're looking for a job for a reason. And what you'll find is that you'll set them afloat because they've got the skills to execute. They have the knowledge of all construction things and all the stuff. You'll set them afloat and you will start realizing that your reputation starts getting diluted by the best reputation that they have the ability to deliver, because they're not running your processes. You brought them in to run what they do and how they do it so that you could capitalize on that money. And eventually you either go in the tank with money because they've overspent, they've, whatever, or your reputation starts tanking. And then all of a sudden you're back to square one. We've done that. And I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of that specific mistake. Right. And that's where we had times where the attrition was hitting us square in the face, where it was like, will we ever get over this hump? Will we ever, I remember during that specific time, we had 2 different departments and we were trying to hire and gain momentum and success. And we kept hiring and firing and hiring and firing and losing clients and losing money. And it was like, are we ever going to make this?
Screw it. Let's go back to where it was and let's just try and collect as much cash.
That's right.
I think when you're looking at making this hire and the processes that we're talking about and that we preach and teach and really help you implement in your company is the how am I going to hire? We have 4 processes that we really kind of focus on. The first one is our project management process. That's what we talked about in the first podcast. How do we have a process built that project management, from the lead coming in to the final invoice, every step along that process, how is it executed?
Duplicatable execution of jobs.
So I can train someone to do it, and it happens every time that way. Right. The second process, when you're in level 2, is our HR process. We call it HR. I see it more as hiring, life cycle of the employee, and firing. And for me, it's how do we hire? Who do we hire? When do we hire? How do we post? How do we interview? Every step is the process. It's a totally separate process than the project management. But you have to have that, or that second wall is hit. Right?
And there's a spot in that HR process that kind of goes linear, right? Who do we hire? How do we hire? Why do we hire? All of that stuff, and then it kind of jumps a gap of management or leadership and goes to like, if we need to corrective action or if we need to exit and terminate, that's part of the HR process. And then we have another process that is more specific to leadership. How do I manage people? How do I lead them? How do I develop them? That's
the development process. And part of the HR, the middle part that you're talking about in the HR is more how do we maintain them, right? Like how do we do benefits? How do we do insurance? Are we going to do insurance? Are we going to do 401k? All the maintenance. How do we check in? How do we
get them more money? How do we show them a path to success?
The pay structure, the pay scales that we've built out for compensating our employees. All of that start to finish, and now building the leadership is a totally different. How do I build guys in this company to grow, build and expand the company? Is our third process that we get into later. But the HR process is the reason that you don't hit the second wall. Mm-hmm. The project management process is the reason you don't hit the first wall that we talked about last week. So. In that process, and if I can give you one piece of advice that you leave with today, because you're going to hire someone at some point. When you're making the hire, is that person good? If you're looking at someone, I'm hiring you, Jared. I'm looking at you. If I'm looking to hire you, are you the process of what you do why I'm hiring you? Jared's really good at construction and he's great with clients and he does this. He's got a really good process and product that he sells. I'm going to hire him. That hire feels great. You're going to start making money immediately off of it, and you're never going to grow beyond it because you're going to be replacing them. And that will happen. You will replace that person or make them a partner, one or the other.
And I guarantee people who just listen to that statement say disagree.
Disagree. Yep.
Come back to us later on and be like, all right.
Here's what you're looking for. You're not looking for a guy who's really good at doing construction, really good at his own processes. That might be a byproduct of who I'm hiring.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for in a hire is, can this guy understand my processes, implement my processes, and do them as well, if not better, than I do them currently?
And apply his own character, moral ethics, and gumption to it.
Yes. Yeah. Now you can, that hire can be really good at construction. They could be in here for 30 years. But I want to get to know why in 30 years are they coming to work for me versus they were in their own company and they left. The attrition side, what's not working? And can this guy who's sitting here who couldn't make it work himself understand that his system wasn't working and what I'm building is working and he needs to be able to be an old dog with new tricks. That's why we don't hire a lot of old dogs. Because for us, if we get someone from 20 to 35, they don't have a lot of bad systems in place that they just have been doing it the same way for 30 years. And so I'm interviewing. The second level of interview is, does this guy have the IQ to implement what we're trying to do? I don't need him to be good at everything. He doesn't need to be good at marketing. I need him to be good at this, and this for this job position. And can I give him tasks to see if he can do it our way or if he has to just do it his way?
Right.
Because that's where people fail. You're a good product. I was a good product. Let's go run together. I'm going to give you some of my clients.
Right.
Let's go.
Well, and just a kind of abstract example of that is, I think that everybody would agree that Amazon has pretty decent processes.
Yep.
They are really good at executing A to Z, getting that package off of the internet to your front step.
Yep.
Right. If they hire somebody who worked at another packaging plant and they've got a way that they do it and they put them on the line of the Amazon line and there's a way that they want it done, but they just are going to do it their way because I think this other way is better, it causes a bottleneck in the process. Yeah. Right? What you're trying to create, you're not trying to create lemmings, but you're trying to create people that can come in and run the process because I want the end user experience to be this duplicatable every time over and over and over.
The worst thing you can do is make your first hire a unicorn.
Yes.
That's what everyone's looking for.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that.
Yeah.
But if I hired you as my very first employee and you're going to be project manager with me and you're great at communication and you're great at running crews and you're great at doing everything, I don't know where the holes are in my process. So I make the next hire thinking, it's common sense.
Just need to find another unicorn.
You got to communicate with the client. That's great that I've got one here, but there's no process in place on how we communicate when we communicate.
Yeah.
And the processes that we're putting in place are what gets you away from the need of a unicorn. Because I don't need you to be good at communication. Can you send an email on Tuesday and Friday to the clients? Yes or no? Can you be self-disciplined enough that every Tuesday and every Friday you're going to be sending an email? Because that's what I'm promising my clients, 2 communications minimum this week. And if you can implement that and have, I can see that you calendar, you're good with detail and making sure you're where you're supposed to be, then that's a quality that can implement my systems, which I don't need you to be good at communicating.
Right.
Just do my system and you will communicate. I don't need you to be good at managing crews and finding new crews because we've got a system of how we do that, right? Yeah. So we're not hiring the person for their skills and abilities. I would love if you have those too. Can you implement our level of communication even though you're already good at it?
Right.
And so figuring that side of it out is the first step in getting past the second wall. Because the second wall is, how am I going to manage this person? How is my job changing? And most people can't change that. They're like, well, I'm the boss of these crews. I'm also the boss of you, and I'm going to tell everyone what to do. Yeah. Great. You're not going to duplicate more than the one hire, maybe a second hire, but you're not growing the company.
Some specifics of that.
Yeah.
If you want long-term employees, loyal, going to be there for a long time, it's not going to work by just the daily grind.
Yep.
And that's what that mindset is. I run these crews and they're out there, so I'm just going to run my PMs the same way. Yep. The reality is that people stay somewhere where they see vision for their growth, success, what's going to be good for them in the future, good for their family. That's where they stay if they can see a road to that. Well, you have to, one, know what that road is, right? Where am I as a business owner taking this company? Two, where do I see employees being able to step into that growth?
Yeah.
And three, you have to be able to spell that out.
Yeah.
You have to have a roadmap to show them, there's where I'm going. These are the places that I'm going to need. And here's how you, if you want, can get there.
Yeah. And if you don't have that roadmap and the plan to get there and the vision for your employees to get there with you and how they grow in their career, you're making one of two hires. Either a guy that wants to be a partner or go compete, or an apathetic person that's going to be gone in 6 months anyways.
Right.
Right. If those are the two things. If they don't see a career path for them here, I'm either going to launch my own thing, become your business partner 50-50 because I can do my own thing and why would I be working for you? Or great, I just need this paycheck and you'll fire me in 6 to 12 months.
Right.
Right. And so that is the importance of that long-term vision. We've sat with guys that are one-man shows. They're still kind of level 1, level 2, starting to run projects. And they're like, how do I make this first hire and have this vision of this huge company and promise like, hey, we're going to be doing $20 million in 5 years from now. And it's like, I'm lying to them. Like, I don't know where we can go. What our advice is in those situations? Look nice. Put a collared shirt on, some clean jeans, and meet them at Starbucks. They don't know if you have an office or not.
Don't meet them on a job site. Don't invite them to your house.
Yep. Meet them there. And what we're pitching to that first person is, this is where we're going. This is what I'm doing. It's an achievable goal, not a pipe dream, not I don't share my biggest goals with more than 2 to 3 people.
Right.
Like my vision of where I think this is going, only 2 to 3 people know.
Right.
What employees know is exactly what is going to be achievable if we all work together. Yeah. What next year looks like, 5 years looks like. And if we can do this together, we will all get pay raises, increases, higher responsibilities because we can then do this.
You need to spell it out enough where they can see themselves on that road.
Yes.
So it has to be tangible.
Yep.
It can't be, rainbows in the sky.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be tangible that they can go, okay, I can see where I am, where I'm coming in at, but I can see the road to there.
Great example. Jared, if in 1 year you're still here and you're killing it, I'm going to give you a raise of $120,000 a year if we can get there.
Right.
That is that might be, you might be able to deliver on that, but you probably won't if that's your first hire.
Right.
Do not give goals and where we're going unreasonable expectations. If I say, Jared, listen, this is how your pay compensation works. When you get to this milestone, we're going to give you a $5,000 bump in your pay. Once we get there, here are the milestones that allow you to get raises. My goal, though, here's the big picture, is I'm going to have 4 to 5 project managers underneath you where you're managing them. Is that something that you're interested in?
Yeah.
Can I get buy-in from you to say, I want to get to that spot? Great. Well, then will you allow me to help give you some criticism when needed, give you some feedback when something's not working, and help get you into that job position? And so everything we're doing today is not to make the customer happy and get this job done and collect dollars, but is to get your career, not your job, but your career on the path to success, for personal success for you as my employee. So that first hire is so difficult because all of these things have to coincide. And even when all of the stars align with, I did my interviews right, I did my pitch right of what the future looks like, I did all of the secondary and third interviews, I did everything, I really like this guy, 40% of the time, 30% of the time, it's still not going to work out. Especially in your first couple, when you're trying to flex those muscles for the first time. You can do everything right, and it still might not work out. We always say hiring is a gamble every single time. Our job as the person running the company is to stack the deck in your favor. When you're gambling on making that hire, it's not a 50-50, a 80% chance they leave. It's, I've put these things in place. I do interviews like this. I ask these questions. I reference check, something we never used to do.
I have them execute some tasks.
I have them go out and do an estimate for me to see how they wrap their heads around pricing. I have them go, there's all sorts of things that we have them do to test them.
Working to spin the odds that are better in my favor. You're still rolling dice.
They can still pull the wool over your eyes and be able to do all that stuff well and use you as a stepping stone for another job. That's going to happen. But if you can stack the deck to where the gamble is not as risky, that's where you grow as a company. That's how you get over that second wall of, how do I duplicate myself as a project manager?
Well, and every time you interview and hire, and failure or success, every time you do it, learn from it. Learn what you did right. Learn what questions got you the answers that you want. Learn. Dang, I talk too much. Right. I mean, there's, and
are you talking about me?
No, I would never. But a part of the interview process at some stage is selling them on why it's beneficial to work here.
Second interview.
Correct. But it's very easy to I like this guy. I want to sell him on it. And you spend more time talking. Your goal is to, how do I see behind the veil of what's really going on versus this best foot forward shenanigans that I'm seeing on a collared shirt and prim and proper.
Well, a great, that's such a small example that's of one of the hundreds of things that we try and regulate is when I used to go into those interviews and sell on the first interview, any additional interview, if the person is sharp enough, they know exactly what I'm looking for, and they can pitch to us what we need, right? And so we were hiring guys that were saying everything that we wanted, because in my first interview, I told them
the play card
exactly what I wanted. If you were this way, then I will like you and I'll hire you, right? This is what we're looking for. And now second interview, I'm this way and I do this and I'm organized and I do this, because they want the job and they're not the guy that I want to hire, and they're not honest about it. So there's a lot going on with how to interview and that sort of thing. The goal of this podcast is not about interviewing and hiring people, but hitting that second wall is about figuring out what I'm doing as a project manager or in my current position, and start implementing what I need to do in my next position. And I think one of the main pieces that you got to look out for when we talk finances with doing that, when I make this hire, if you come to me, if we're coaching you, say, Clark, I'm going to make this hire. And I say, how are you going to pay for that person? Because right now you are breaking even month over month on the good months. How are you going to pay for the salary? If your answer is, well, I've got 4 jobs that we can start if I hire them, it's not going to work. And every single time people say that, I'm like, don't make that hire. And they go make the hire and it doesn't work. And the problem is, that's because there is no space for training. I have to make money on these 4 jobs that I can start right away to pay for his salary. So I can't leave him in the office for 2 weeks and have him follow me and do all of this. I've got to train him on the fly and put the plane together while we're midair. And it doesn't work that way. So looking at your finances and saying, listen, we are making about $9,000 a month more than what I need and what's going out. Making this hire, I've got a guy, I think we can hire him for $50. That means we're going to be paying him $4,500 a month. It's $5,000 after taxes and fees and all that stuff. I think it's going to get tight. I'm not going to have as much available income every month, but I've got the space that I can burn $5,000 for 3 or 4 months.
And if they're successful and this works,
great.
I'm gonna get a return on that money.
So,
but we've said in the past, and I don't remember which podcast it is, but we said in the past, every hire you need to be prepared to take $10,000 to $15,000 in cash and burn it.
Yeah.
You're gonna
if not more. Yeah.
you're gonna burn it,
Yeah.
right? That is the cost of hiring.
That's the gamble.
There's a secondary cost that you're trying to mitigate, and that's a loss of reputation.
Yep.
Right. And so that is where, when we're talking about hitting that wall and how hitting that wall can cause you to fail, can shut down the company, is the wrong hires can cost you so much.
Yeah.
And this is a space that everyone thinks, if I hire, everything will finally be fine and I'll finally start making money.
Yeah.
They think it's the answer to growth is hiring people, and it's not it. You hiring is very, very difficult, and if it's done wrong, it can cost a ton of money, including shutting down the company.
Yeah.
So it's a place that you need to have a strategic, step-by-step, organized plan. Here's what I'm going to do. And in this stage, you're hiring your first one. You're just trying it out, seeing how it works. You don't have a lot of extra cash at that spot.
No.
You're not doing $15, $20 million a year at that spot where you can afford a big $10,000 just cut of cash.
Yep.
So it is a spot that if you don't do it right, you can hit that wall and go backwards and over enough to the place where the attrition is like, dude, it's impossible.
Yep.
I can't do this anymore. I'm just going back to I'm going to run jobs.
Yeah.
Or it shuts you down.
I think when we're talking about hitting that second wall and hiring, what we're talking about is hiring someone to do the work that you're doing to free you up to eventually become their boss.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I'm in level 1, going into level 2, I'm managing crews and I'm a project manager. I'm going to hire a part-time office person to keep QuickBooks and do my material receipts and keep my ProServe software updated. 360 looks great now because I've got my assistant in there doing it. Hiring an assistant to give you more capacity to do your job is not moving into the next level.
Right.
That's okay. You can do that. All you're doing is allowing you to you're paying someone to do the stuff that doesn't pay you very much.
Right.
So you can sell your time for more money elsewhere. And that's okay. A lot of people do that, and that's staying at the level 1, level 2 level, not going into hires and building a company.
Right.
But don't think that just because I hired a bookkeeper that's going to help me for 20 hours a week means, okay, great, I made a good hire.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's box A to box B. There is not a system in place outside of, hey, on Mondays and Thursdays, can you go into my QuickBooks and reconcile my bank account?
Right.
Great. That's QuickBooks set up that system, that process of how that's going to happen. That could be a successful hire. That doesn't mean you have hiring down.
Yeah.
And that isn't getting you to the next level. That's just giving you the capacity to say yes to more jobs.
Yeah, you're hiring somebody to do book work, paperwork, all of that stuff.
Yep.
That's fine. Hiring to move to the next level is you are hiring somebody who is responsible for making the client happy to pay you money.
Yep.
Right? You can do that all day long, but you're now passing that responsibility to another person, that their job is to do a good enough job that the client is happy to cut you a check.
Level 1 is selling the product of the renovation, the product of the HVAC system, the product of the pool that you're putting in. That's level 1. The product that I'm in charge of selling is the new kitchen. Level 2 is the product that I'm in charge of selling is the customer enjoyment of the system.
The experience.
The customer's experience of our company. Now, part of that is that I'm maintaining the people that are delivering the product.
Right.
But it's, I've talked about it before, the grocery store metaphor of there's a difference of me going door to door to sell meat to different homeowners and me opening a grocery store to organize to where we can sell a lot over and over and duplicate the grocery stores. There, I am managing people. I'm restocking the shelves. I'm making sure that our products are great. But I'm not focused on creating milk in a jug.
Right.
That's already done. That's the crew that I'm hiring. In that scenario, what I'm doing is saying, I know where I get my milk. I've been doing this for a while. I was in level 1, and I've got my product really well down, really nailed down as to how it is delivered to the client. Now, how do I help the client enjoy the experience of it? Because that's what I'm going to control, and that's who I'm going to be hiring as project managers is when the client comes into the grocery store, are they greeted? Is it clean in the grocery store? Do they know how to get to their stuff? Is checkout a breeze? Does someone walk them to the car? all of that stuff is your experience that you didn't have to do day one, because in level one, you're the one delivering the product. You're bringing them the steak to their front door and saying, "Here you go. There's your meat that you wanted."
Well, and in that analogy, as the manager of the store, again, you're not in charge of creating the beef or creating the gallon of milk. Or that's done.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're analyzing what is the client when they walk in the door. How do they feel?
Yep.
What are they experiencing? Yep. Where are bottlenecks? How can I make it better for them? If I communicate to them here, does that help them get to where I want them, which is buying the milk?
Yep.
Right. That's where, we talk about these walls, and really what the wall is the not understanding what your job responsibility change is.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that place, when you're moving to a management of the company and management of the employees, there are a lot of things that are coming off of your plate that you're no longer responsible for. Other people are doing that for you.
Yeah.
Right. And your job now has new responsibilities that you may or may not know how to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Well, if you are really good at your job, you hit these walls harder.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not good, it's because you're where you're at because you built systems to follow yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm not naturally good at doing this, I'm going to be better at building a system for myself, and you can implement that, and we don't hit these walls so hard.
Right.
The guys that are out there killing it, doing really good, delivering the meat to the house, they don't think about it. I leave a receipt here. I do this. I show up at this time. I make sure it's cooled the whole way over here. I don't have to think about it. That's common sense.
Right.
But then they hire someone who's going to run their grocery store that's doesn't realize they need a receipt and we need a way to take money.
What do you mean you didn't put the meat on ice?
Yeah. and so if you are really good at what you do, which a lot of guys are in this industry,
mm-hmm.
they hit these walls because it's like, I didn't think about having to write that down as a process. Mm-hmm. That's just normal. You just do that. So that's what we're talking about with building these processes. We can always talk processes, but it's really what part of you needs duplicating. What part of you do we want other people to do, and what part of you is just you? And that's not going to be in every single employee of your company. That's just how you do things, and that's great. You're a smart guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so we identify those, build those out. This is how we duplicate in that job role and move up to the next level and expand the company to get us to where we want to go.
Right. Right. Well, we've talked about the different levels that we have at ProServe Alliance, where there's level 1, level 2, all the way through level 5. So we've talked about 1, 2, and 3. 3 is where you start getting multiple employees and
general manager
where
you're sitting.
But one thing that I do want to point out is that in level 3, when there is a spot that you can get to that is really a sweet spot.
Yeah.
That you've got 3 or 4 project managers working for you. It's before you go with the delineation between general manager and head of department, right? It's you're the general manager. You're managing all of the project managers. It's a spot that you can get to where you can work on. You can pause. You're making really good cash.
$250K to $500K at that spot.
Yeah. And you can work to really crank things down, dial it in. Where are those spots where I can communicate better, where I can deliver the product better, and really dial that in. And there's also times where you get in that spot and you're like, crap, there's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the jump to the next level. And the next level, level 4, is where you start, you've got a GM and you start, creating multiple divisions where you're doing different types of jobs and there's different opportunities.
Adding products to what you're selling.
Yeah. So that there's more levels that come after that, that we go through. And the beauty of that, I think what I love is that, anybody can go and they're going to experience these levels, whether they're with us and on with ProServe or not, they're going to experience these levels. The difficulty is when you hit those levels, what the heck am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to prep to make that transition? So for us, we've identified the levels. We've identified the org chart of how you grow in those spots, and then strategic steps in each one of those levels that we've got through the entire transition, about 280 points of at level 2, you need to be doing these 10, 12 things to prep, to move from 2 to 3, right? So we take those and put them in bite-sized places.
And part of the levels, and what you were just talking about, level 3, we've built it to where at the end of each level, you can coast. You can just collect cash and coast. So at the end of level 1 is I'm swinging hammers and I'm just running crews. You don't join ProServe Alliance if that's what you want to do.
Right.
That's we're helping grow past that.
Yeah.
End of level 2 is I'm a project manager and I'm running 5-6 crews.
Yeah.
And those jobs at a time, you can make really good money. You're making 6 figures at that point.
Oh yeah.
Level 3, like you're talking about, is I now have 4 or 5 project managers, sometimes 6 to 7 if you max it out. And each of those guys are running 4 to 5 crews. And I'm making a ton of money. Now, there's a lot more overhead, but my profits are way larger that spot. But then to move to the next level is a lot more of a spend.
Yeah.
So at the end of each level, it's like, where do you want to go? That's our first conversation with you when you come in Alliance. What is the end goal? What do you want? Well, I want to be making $100,000 a year mailbox money. Great. Well, let's get you to end of level 3 and pause there. Let's collect cash and let's grow from that. Grow to that spot.
Or I want to create something that can be passed down to my kids. I'd like to be multi-state. Blah blah blah. I'd like to be in these different. Okay, all right. So we're going to run down that road and we're going to start. Get to the stability point in one division. Then we create a secondary division, and then we take that and say, okay, let's go cross state lines.
This is how you go to a different city without losing your shirt. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's it. If you got any other questions, we're done with this series. It's only a 2-parter, but this is so important because this is why ProServe Alliance is here.
Yep.
We build the processes and we help you get past those walls that you just say, I need a second, third set of eyes on why we are stuck in this rut.
We're hoping to decrease the 96% failure rate.
Yep. Go to ProServeAlliance.com. Hit us up on the Contact Us part of that. Check out our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, all the places you get podcasts, Amazon. You can check out our videos on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram.
Like and subscribe to all of them.
Yes, like and subscribe. But love to talk to you guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next podcast.
See ya.
Thank you.